On day one of the bike ride, a group of my friends joined us for the stretch between Cranbrook and Marysville to wish us well on our merry way.
Well, if you can hear me above the noise of the stream, this is the first video of my trip that I've named Around the Rockies, or Autour de Rocher. And I'm actually now 2/3 of the way up the first big pass, which is the Grey Creek Pass. And I set off before my travelling companion, Brian Morin, and he'll be joining me shortly, I have no doubt. But this is a convenient place to stop about 2/3 of the way up the climb. I just thought I'd show you this lovely stream. And there's my rig there. So this is the summit of Grey Creek Pass. Just got here. Brian will be here any minute. I'm going to go down to the picnic area and wait for him. But this is the summit. Taken 5.5 hours to get here. Well, actually more like 6, to be honest. Some middle hiking trails. And, as you can imagine, pretty tired. But I'll have some lunch, get some water in me, some electrolytes, and I'll be good. So here I am on the Kootenay Lake ferry, going from Crawford Bay over to Balfour. And for those of you that don't know this area and haven't seen this, it's a beautiful lake with beautiful mountains on either side. So a tough day yesterday over Grey Creek Pass, but a much better day today down to Castlegar.
So this is the bridge over the western arm of the Kootenay Lake, with Nelson over my left shoulder in the background, and you can see the beach there, and you'll notice that there's nobody actually in the water despite it being a stinking hot day, and that's because Kootenay Lake is notoriously cold.
So this is Baker Street in Nelson. I have to say, looking its very best today, this beautiful summer's day. So my riding companion Brian is in the bike shop over there, Garrick Cycle, and I think we're going to find somewhere for an ice cream and a refreshing drink, then lunch, and then on to Castlegar. So this is somewhere between Castlegar and Christina Lake on day 4, and we're working our way up to Farron Pass, and this is the rail to trail that we're on today, and we're overlooking this lake. You can probably see there's a couple of campers over there. Must be a campsite. There is a road that goes along that side, but doesn't go all the way up the lake, only goes about halfway. And there's my travelling partner, Brian, who's enjoying the ride as much as I am. Yeah, what a lovely day. It's very hot. It's going to be in the high 30s today, but it's still quite early. I'll tell you what the time is. It's 10 to 8, so it's relatively cool, and there's a headwind which neither of us are actually worried by because it keeps us cool. The only thing is the bears can't either smell us or hear us coming, so we're going quite slow. So here we are, about halfway up the trail from Castlegar up to Fallon Pass, and this is a great viewing point. And say hello. Oops, and one of the bikes has just fallen over. Yeah. So that's the trail that we've just come up, and in about 500 meters or so the trail is going to turn left into a southwesterly direction and go off towards Christina Lake. So this is the beginning of day 5, and we're working our way from Grand Forks over to Midway, and this beautiful valley here is the Granby River.
Oh, the Granby River, huh?
Yeah, the Granby River. And this gentleman here is our warm showers host from last night, Jean-Marcel. And what a great host he was. And we got a little way to go. I don't think we're halfway up here yet, but not that far off. Well, this is day 6, and last night we pushed on to the Little Dipper campsite, which some people will be familiar with. And for some of my Canadian friends, they'll also be familiar with this site here. Notable this year for the lack of water. Very, very dry compared to last year, certainly. Well, here we are up at McCulloch Lakes, and it is so hot, it must be in the 40s, and we're going for our second swim of the day, and one's just filtering some water. So what's the water like, Brian?
It's not cold.
It's not cold at all?
Nope.
Okay.
Warmer than...
Water than... Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it is quite warm, isn't it? Mind you, it's still a bit shallow, isn't it?
Yeah, it might get
Colder as we get in, yeah.
but still nice.
Yeah. Now, the good thing about this camera is you can take it in the water. So here goes. Oh boy. Yeah. That is so nice. Oh my god. That is a lifesaver, I tell you. It has been so hot. We've still been climbing.
Yeah.
What are we at now? About kilometre 80?
Yeah.
We've been climbing all day. And yeah, so we felt the heat bearing down on us. Oh, yeah. So these lakes are really rather lovely. And apparently there's only a few man-eating crocodiles in it. Other than that, it's fine. A nice little gazebo for having a picnic and getting changed. Whoever put this here did a good job. So here we are on day 7, and we've just ridden up from Penticton up rail trail and come to this amazing gorge here. I don't know how well I'm filming this, but it's pretty spectacular, and that goes down to the Okanagan, and on the other side is orchards and vineyards. Over there. And if you haven't noticed, it's an active railway line here. There's a steam engine that ploughs this during the tourist season, and we're going to have to come off the railway now, go on the roads for a few kilometres before we get back on the trail. So here we are above Summerland, having climbed up from the Okanagan Valley, and we've come off the rail trail and got onto this really beautiful weaving trail through the hills above Summerland, and it's just glorious up here. It's a good 5 degrees cooler than down in the valley. That's going to reach about 42, 44 degrees today, and we're significantly cooler up here. But there's the valley, if you can see it through trees, and this is us just pottering through this lovely trail. Well, here we are on day 8, and we're about half an hour outside Princeton. We've come across this beautiful canyon and lovely gazebo where I think somebody spent the night. It's just very picturesque. Even got a nice little beach down there, and someone's been down there. I can see footprints. But disappointingly, what we found here today when we arrived was a fire, unattended, blazing away. So we've just spent 15 minutes covering it up with gravel. Now, we haven't put it out. You can probably see there's a little bit of smoke coming out of there, but at least we've stopped the embers flying around. It's going to be 40 odd degrees today. It's going to be the hottest day of this heat wave, and some idiot who clearly is probably suffering the effects of alcohol, rum alcohol beverage, left a flaming fire unattended. Just unfathomable how stupid some people can be.
Now, this isn't my photograph, but I hope the young lady that owns it won't mind me borrowing it to illustrate what the condition of the trail is like at the top of the Coquihalla, where in a number of places it's totally impassable with bicycles, either because the bridges have been swept away, or as in this case, a landslide has literally slid the trail down into the river. In this particular instance, this stretch goes for about 100 meters, and it took Brian and I nearly an hour to take all the bags off our bikes, to manhandle our bikes through it, and then reassemble our bikes at the other end. But it's not, as some would have you believe, a fully rideable trail.
So this is the Coquihalla Canyon. That's the Coquihalla River in there. We've just ridden down from the summit about 45 kilometers, free-wheeled the whole way down, and I haven't looked at the speeds yet, but probably getting into the high 60s. Anyway, this the trail, the Trans-Canada, and a series of tunnels here, that way and that way, and this amazing canyon. As you can see, it's a pretty popular tourist attraction, and I'm not surprised. It is actually really quite lovely. Yeah, I've just got to show you more of this. The trees and everything here are just amazing. Lovely ferns on the side of the trail as well. and it's really cool in here. We're in the middle of the early summer heat wave with temperatures in the 40s in British Columbia, but this, I mean, it's a nice cool sort of 15 degrees or something in here. It's just wonderful.
At the end of that beautiful avenue of trees is the town of Hope, famous for its wooden sculptures dotted around the town, and also famous for the fact that the first Rambo film, which I think was called First Blood, was filmed here. And not surprisingly, someone did a carving of Rambo, otherwise known as Sylvester Stallone, and that takes almost pride of place in the town, bizarrely enough.
Well, welcome to day 10. We're just leaving Hope and we're just crossing the Fraser River, and it's in full flood, torrenting down from the Caribou and further north. See over there. So this is the end of day 10 at Wood Lake campsite, and this is my bath for tonight, which I have to share with a few other people, but actually that's fine, but they don't mind me doing my washing. Day 11, and we've been slogging our way along the western side of Harrison Lake, and it's been up and down on the very poor surface, and it has been as hard work as Grey Creek, and there's been a few occasions when we've had to hike a bike, but we've come around the corner and been hit by this cold breeze straight in the face coming off this fabulous little waterfall. Now I'll take you over to the other side so you can see, but it's been quite brutal today. We've been going since 5 o'clock. It's about midday and we've only covered about 40 kilometers. So this is still day 11 and we've made it along Harrison Lake, which was, as I think I've mentioned, a pretty challenging day. Now, if you're watching this in the future, this is just at the end of a massive heat wave that we had in North America at the beginning of July in 2021, and record temperatures, 49 degrees in Lytton, which actually was burnt to the ground with a forest fire. Now those temperatures meant that the last remaining snow in the mountains virtually all gone. There's a tiny bit that you can see up there, but the flooding is quite spectacular. And here, this is the waters flowing out of Lillooet Lake going down into Harrison Lake, and they're going through this narrow gorge here, and it's quite interesting to see, quite large logs and things all coming down, and this is what it looks like on the other side. So this is Brian dismantling our bridge. There's roadworks here, but the diversion goes up about a 30-degree slope, which is totally unrideable. In fact, I think it might be more than 30 degrees. So it's a Saturday and there's no workmen here, so we built ourselves a little bridge. We had 3 of those down, and we walked the bikes across and brought them up onto here, and we can actually ride off. We've done a recce and riding off won't be a problem. Well, day 12, and yesterday was a really tough day. It was a long day and a tough day, and I forgot to put the tracker on till the afternoon, so people won't have seen exactly where we went. But now we're on our way into Lillooet, and we've got this last little climb to do, which I think the peak is just up there, and then it'll roll down into Lillooet, and we just come up there. Day 13, and we've just had a rest day in Lillooet after a couple of pretty tough days on Harrison Lake and coming up over the Duffy Pass into Duffy Lake. And we were confronted by a big fire to the north of us that blocked our route, our first choice route, and we had to work out a way of getting around the fire. Huge fire, one of the biggest fires in Canada at the time, and we managed to find a guy in a sports shop in Lillooet, very kindly gave us a lift, so thanks to Kevin, and we bought him a meal and paid him for his time and fuel, of course, but nevertheless it was extremely kind of him to drive us around the fire to the side so we could continue our journey on one of our alternative routes.
And here is Kevin on the left with Brian, and we stopped here so Kevin could show us Pavilion Lake in Marble Canyon, which, as you can see, is crystal clear.
So here we are at the end of day 13, which is Tuesday the 6th of July, and we're more or less in the middle of the Caribou Plateau, not quite at the highest point, but we found this nice little campsite where there is some water down there which has to be filtered, but we can use it. And we've set up our camp here, and we're just about turning in. There's Brian, just about to get into his tent. There are the bikes, and there's my tent. I haven't put my fly sheet on. I haven't used fly sheet at all once this trip yet, because there hasn't been any threat of any rain, and I don't think there's going to be any tonight. And over there you can see we've hung up as best we can our rubbish and our food bags. It won't stop the bears getting them, but what we have done is we've put my audio alarm over there as well, so if anything touches any of that log, the alarm will go off, and I can control that from my tent. Day 14, and after a chilly night we've woken up and got on the road quite quickly, and I just thought I'd show you this beautiful scenery up on the top of the Caribou Plateau. Well, still day 14, and we've only been on the road an hour, but I just wanted to show you this beautiful, rolling, sometimes open countryside. But it really is just a pleasure to ride through. Because we finished early today, I've been mostly swimming in this lake today, and it's just tepid, not even fresh really, but it does take the sting out of the sun. We're still in the 30s in terms of temperatures, and there's precious little shade. The only real shade to be had is really in the toilet. But I'm not complaining. And I have graciously shared this lake with a few other people. Well, day 15, and we're just dropping now 1,000 feet into the bottom of the Fraser Canyon, which you can see in front of us. And I'm trying to film going down this quite steep gravel road, so this will be a short video. But I'll film again at the bottom as we go across the river, so you can get a better feel for the canyon. So this is the bridge across the Fraser, looking back across from where we've come. We've just parked our bikes at the other end of the bridge, but thought I'd show it to you. Only one truck or bus allowed on the bridge at any one time, and there's only enough room for one vehicle to pass across it. But they've got these two little pedestrian ways which are jolly handy for tourists like me. So we've come down that road there, and as I say, from 1,000 feet up that side, and we've got to go a little less distance up this side. So here's the Fraser. And on the other side, really quite interesting, there's an island right in the middle there. So this is a bit further up the Fraser Valley Gorge, and it's just been glorious along here. So we stopped just to show you what it's been like, and we've been unexpectedly blessed with a paved road, but I have to tell you, I don't know how much longer it's going to last. We've got 120 kilometers to do today, and I was expecting a lot of it to be on gravel, but actually only the bit down into and out of the gorge or the canyon has been gravel so far. Anyway, I'm not expecting it to last. So here we are on the first day of the leg between Prince George and Grand Prairie, and it's been a glorious day. It's going to be quite hot. It's going to get up into the early 30s, but we've been passing lots of these glorious meadows where the purple flowers have overtaken the whole pasture. So on our route from Pass Lake to Buchanan Creek, we've been stopped in our tracks because the trail just runs straight into the river, and there's absolutely no way round, and we have no idea how far up the trail is, and we can't get through this. We've been through on foot, and we can't get through on foot, let alone with bicycles, so we're going to have to retrace our steps and look at our options. But it hasn't been easy. It's not the first time that the trails ran into the river. There's always been a bypass, but not on this occasion. So there we are. So I haven't really shown you any of my campsites on this trip. About 50% of them have been wild camps on the side of the trail, etc. But this is one of those occasions where I've actually chosen a campground in the national park. And this is my water supply for the night. And actually I would have quite liked to have taken this little spot here, but there wasn't much room for a tent, and what there was had a few stones sticking up, so I elected to go for a slightly flatter and softer pitch, which is over here. Now this campground, it's not manned, so it's done on a self-inscription basis, and if you're an unsupported cyclist, you've got this little area here which is capable of taking 10 tents, and it's just $5. If you go into one of the pitches under the trees there, which are full campsite pitches, that cost you $25. Anyway, there's my tent. I haven't put the fly sheet up yet, because if I do, it'll just get baking hot in there, and when I eventually get into it, I'll roast. So I'm letting that air, and I've put it up early just in case anybody else arrives and decides they want it. So this here, and I've not seen this before, but this is a cookhouse area, and they've got a wood burning stove in here, which you can light if you want to cook. In the summer, actually, I don't cook. I don't even bring a cooker with me, and I use things like instant oats and instant noodles to provide some of my food, and then it's things like jerky and beans and all that sort of stuff. And the other thing that they've got very close by, and they've got 2 or 3 of these around the campsite, but this is for the cyclists. This is food storage, bear-proof food storage. So I'll put my pannier with all the food in it in there tonight. There we are, and the bears won't get it, so that's good. And there are thunderbox loos and things all over the campsite, and I've got one very close to me. So this is very cool. I've got to the top of what I think is the first part of the climb. I think I've got a lot further to go, but I think I've done the steepest bit. But why I've stopped here, I wanted to show you this skyway walkway, which runs for 6 kilometres from the top here along the side of the highway, and you can walk. I don't think you can take bicycles down it, but they've blocked off the entrance at the top here, and they're making people go down to the bottom entrance to use it. But it looks very cool. Look at that viewing point up there. It goes, stretches right out over the gorge. So this is also a bit cool. Got the river right alongside the road here. I'm just wondering how often the road actually gets washed out, or at least blocked. So this is the hostel at Rampart Creek, and that's the bunkhouse that I'm in, and there's another one over there, and there's a sauna over there which is not actually being used at the moment. They're redoing the heater, and the thunderboxes are over there. Well, this is the kitchen area and common area, and actually it's really well equipped. I'm really pleasantly surprised. So this is the sort of living area, and I've got my devices all on charge here. They won't take very long. It's all solar powered, So they've got solar panels on the roof, so that's how they're providing electricity for us. And this is the kitchen area. There's clean potable water over there, and you can take that water and do your washing up, rinsing clothes, all that sort of stuff. Well appointed with knives and forks, cutlery, you know, crockery, all that sort of stuff, and a fridge. And I've already put some of my stuff in there. That's mine. I've put a couple of drinks in there, which I'm going to consume a bit later on. I'll show you where the accommodation, sleeping accommodation is, and where I'm going to be for the night. And as soon as I've shown you that, I'm going to do some clothes washing and get it out to dry, because there's a nice breeze out at the moment and the sun's shining, so it shouldn't take long to dry stuff. So anyway, here's the bike, and I'll secure that in there with my alarm device later on. Now in here there are two rooms, so there's this one over here. They were both identical rooms, photocopies of each. So I've already made up my bed. That's where I'll be sleeping.
The following day, I passed over the pass between Jasper and Banff, and I have to tell you that it felt very different from what I've been travelling through the previous days, both in terms of temperature, it was much colder, and the scenery. Far fewer trees, much more remote feeling to the whole place. And it felt a bit more like Central Asia, really, than central British Columbia and Alberta, to be honest with you. But nevertheless, spectacular and well worth it.
Well, this is the Bow Pass summit on the Icefields Parkway, and it's the penultimate high summit on this bike ride. The final one is the Elk Pass, the day after tomorrow. So as passes go, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't that high and it wasn't that steep, but it's quite long, and I did have the wind against me all the way. You can probably hear it. Well, this is the route down from the summit of Bow Pass, and we can see Bow Lake and that rather magnificent glacier up there. Notice how quiet the road is. Very few vehicles on it in the 3 days that I've been on it, and noticeably no commercial traffic, no big articulated lorries or anything, which has been a joy.
From Banff, I joined the Great Divide mountain bike trail, and just before I got to the base of the climb for Elk Pass, I looked to my right where a power line went over the trail and saw this large male grizzly. In all, I saw 5 grizzlies, including a mama and her 2 cubs, this large one and a younger male. In terms of black bears, I saw about 20, and with one exception, they all skedaddled as soon as they became aware of my presence. The grizzlies, on the other hand, were less concerned about my presence, and certainly in the case of the 2 males, they were reluctant to give way or to change what they were doing. And again, like the black bear, none of them showed any signs of aggressive behaviour.
So I made it over Elk Pass today, and actually I climbed it twice in terms of elevation gain, because the route down from Banff was actually quite hilly, and at one stage I was actually at the same height as Elk Pass, and so really I climbed it twice. Anyway, I tried Elk Lake's cabin, the Canada Mountaineering Club cabin, but that seemed to be all locked up and not in use because of COVID. So I rode on about another 10 kilometres to this, and some people might know this little place. It's right on the side of the trail. It might be a bit noisy tonight, but there's a loo over there, which is good, a table and a little cabin, and there's a couple of bunks in here. And I think the biggest problem, to be honest with you, is going to be mosquitoes, although they're not out at the moment, but I don't think it'll take them long. Anyway, if the light's good enough, I don't know whether it is, but anyway, here's this little cabin. There's even a little sink and things in here. Somebody's left some water. Not quite sure what that is. No, that's water as well. Okay, I've got plenty of water though. It's not going to matter. So I've put my name in the visitors book. Little frying pan over there. Don't know whether you can see it. Seems to all be in. All the windows are intact. The door you can lock from the inside. And for winter, there's even a stove, look, which is great. So I think I'll be quite safe and happy in here tonight. There's even a fire extinguisher under there. Think of everything.
After 31 days of riding, I had a 100-kilometre day down from Sparwood to Wardner, where I live. And just as I turned in off the highway onto the Wardner Road, I was met by this merry bunch of ladies who had come out to welcome me home. And it was a wonderful surprise. Thank you, ladies.